amazingly profound and amazingly not profound at the same time. And today we're going to debate about how these media powerhouses, who do make most of this content that we see today, should respect a country's right to censor this content, which is incompatible with their state-specific standards of morality. First, I will describe the picture of what is a media powerhouse. A media powerhouse has a big market reach. They have the power to be able to reach the kind of people that a lot of people can't reach, and they do have these social influences, and they have some sort of accountability to the things that they do spread and whatever principles or objectives that they wish to carry on with their company. Also, we do need to keep in mind that media powerhouses are usually and commonly for-profit institutions, and that puts them in a business state of nature. So secondly, we talk about morality, about state-specific standards of morality. A lot of the countries in the world, a lot of states in the world, and a lot of places in the world share different moralities than everybody else. Yes, some of us can share a universally accepted morality, but there are a lot of other things that we do need to discuss today about whether that should be inappropriately censored or appropriately censored. So now that I've described the context, now we'll talk about respect. So respect here, what we mean respect is that the government doesn't want to censor everything that we think is like, oh, it just doesn't fit with the state-specific standards of morality. We do recognize that the content that is presented today does give a way for discourse, does make people talk, and it does make us open our minds. A lot of countries have agreed to this, which is why countries such as Malaysia, Thailand, Singapore have adopted to things like BBC, CNN, Al Jazeera, and we do not have a problem with this. However, we do have the LPF to extend to us what can and what cannot be censored. Although I'm not citing this debate in a specific place and time, the other countries do practice this as well. So the first thing about the respecting is that the censorship does not have to do with like we're going to censor everything that is going to be shown. What Malaysia has done is that we're going to censor things that are a little bit too abrupt, a little bit too much, a little bit something that the state has decided could be a little too much for the people here. And what these media powerhouses don't see is that the government's policy or the government's principle on how they do things. Yes, sir.
What is the media powerhouses' incentive to bow down to the government values?
The media powerhouse incentive to bow down to the powerhouse values is basically just for profit. If you do decide to go against that state-specific standard of morality, what they could face is backlash. What they could face is that they will not get the profit that they want from that country. And that is something that the media powerhouse will have to undertake on their side. But on the government side, we are not willing to undertake the media powerhouse just being able to freely just put out their content without being politicized. So what we're asking here is to meet middle ground. We're not going to censor everything you put out, but we do want some things to be censored. So these things are, certain countries do not accept the LGBT culture, but certain countries do not just put it out of their TV. You can show the LGBT culture, which is what the government is proposing, but we do not want to show things that are a little bit, too much. And this is something that the state has already decided, such as in Malaysia, we have the LPF, in Singapore, Malaysia have other bodies of institutions that I cannot name right now. Yes, sir.
Why did Beauty and the Beast still do not suffer from a great amount of loss of money just because it refused to censor the movie in Malaysia?
Can you repeat that, please?
Why did Beauty and the Beast still get a lot of money even if it refused to censor its movie in Malaysia?
Well, Beauty and the Beast still gains a lot of money because it has this 20-year-long standing of having a worldly culture. So in Malay, I'm not sure if you're meaning it in a Malaysian context or in a universal context, but universally, if they were to get a lot of money, that would make a lot of sense to me. So I'm not quite sure how many states would. I just think that I shouldn't be focusing on too much of that POI right now. Okay, so moving on to censorship. We're not going to censor everything, and this is something the government sees that the opposition think we're going to do, which is what we're not going to do. So what we think by respecting is that the number one argument for this is that media's powerhouse intentions should be politicized because we don't know the nature of their business. We don't know what they want to do. Are they for profit? Do they have a political agenda? If you can market things on these media powerhouses and they can create a market and it has market reach, which means they can produce content that can heavily influence people. So we don't want these media powerhouses to run around and be showing things that are, they should have respect for the country's state-specific standards of morality because what they're going to create is some sort of conflict because they don't have a kind of all across the board intentions within all their reporters and all their staff. So we don't know whether they're for profit or somebody is involved. They could slip this in, and not just in news, in dogmas, in TV shows, cartoons, and these are things we need to consider as well. The content that they want to give, and what they really want from these media powerhouses. Media powerhouses want some of this content are good, like science. It hasn't reached to a lot of countries. A lot of countries, when they see that on TV, they want to copy that. But then there are other things that, they think that they want to, some of these media powerhouses think that they can create change, they can cause change, like more acceptance with the LGBT community. But what they need to know about countries who have state-specific standards of morality is that they need to watch out how they present these ideas, how they present these things. And media powerhouses, we don't know if we have quite a policy for that. How are they going to, convey this information? Will they do it in a way that's abrupt? Will they do it in a way where people don't accept it? And this is how the country policies that, how the country sees. How do you respect our state-specific standards of morality? Because that reflects on what that media powerhouse stands on. Are they a media powerhouse that's really so keen on promoting their agenda that they forget that they're trying to serve its people? They're trying to who have specific standards of morality, who might not want to see something they see on TV. Yes, they can turn it off, but we're talking about statewide impact. We're talking about societal impact of not politicizing this media powerhouse. So outside of the house, underside government, we believe that the media powerhouse have a different way of looking into things than governments who make state-specific standards of morality. And we believe that these clashes can create certain things. So we're not asking for a hard stance, we're asking for to respect a country's right. And this could be something that could be found in between media powerhouses and the government, because we do have some things that we can share and the country can develop through this sharing and this merge. But there are some things that some countries are not ready for, some states are not ready for, and they need to be eased into it. They need to be, they need to politicize, respect the culture, because these are things that are long-standing within that region itself. And we cannot just come into it, and media powerhouses cannot just come into it with their own agendas and without us really knowing what this really means. Because one, we have to remember media powerhouses have a big market reach. They can create an impact. They have social influences, marketing power, and therefore profit. And we cannot forget all these things. And this is why the government strongly believes. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Prime Minister, for your speech. And now invite the Leader of Opposition to begin the opposition's case. Okay.
Thank you. I'm very confused in this debate, and I don't understand what side government wants, right? We think in a world when you're talking about powerhouses, it's not likely for you to talk about news or outlets that give people information, right? We think what's likely within this debate is talking about powerhouses within media outlets that give out movies or like things that are controversial in society that most people with strong cultures and traditions do not necessarily want to accept, right? I think this is what the debate is about. I think it's unfair for you to talk about things that you close on the TV. I think this is about censorship. It's not about whether these things are towards people and people have the decision to close or an option to watch or not watch these kinds of controversial news outlet or media or movies, right? I think these are the things that needed to be discussed in the debate, right? I think we're very confused with what they wanted to talk about, right? But let's look within a few rebuttals in the debate. Number one, should media powerhouses receive backlash, right? Because the reason why they didn't want to censor the reason why they wanted to censor things that powerhouses give out is because they feel like these companies will then receive backlash, right? What we on side opposition say, we are okay with backlash. We're okay with the controversial that comes when powerhouses let this out, right? It means you're able, because most of the time, let's just look at it, right? Most of the time, powerhouses depend on these controversies, right? As long as it gives them more traction, at least it makes people talk about it, then they're willing to just let it, because people will then watch their news or people will then watch their movies, right? Which means in terms of viewership, you will still have that viewership upon which people never really wanted to watch your news or your movies to begin with. Because of that controversy, you're able to garner traction for people to watch it at the end of the day, right? But then secondly, we think it's important to talk about the best interest of powerhouses, which I'll explain even more later, right? We think it's important to understand, number one, why should they have the moral obligation to even respect these countries to begin with, right? We think it's unfair for you to just tell us the reason why they have to respect is because this culture doesn't accept it, right? Let's look at a more logical way of reasoning, right? If say you want to create a movie, and let's just talk about Beauty and the Beast, for example, right? If they created a movie that wanted to portray a message of LGBT community being inclusive in society, and if that community and that culture necessarily doesn't accept that community to begin with, why is it in their best interest to still show that movie even so, if you're going to censor the whole value of that movie to begin with, right? We think there's a natural incentive that comes from these powerhouses to still want to convey that message as well garner that viewership, right? We don't, both of the things are still being relevant in this debate, right? We think it's also important for you to understand that there are targets of viewers that these powerhouses want to target, right? So if most of the times, the kind of viewers that they don't necessarily target are the ones wanting to censor your product or whatever, I think it's fine if they don't want to show them either way, because you're not the target viewer that they target for you to watch even so. So we think it's not necessary for you to feel that just because they have that culture, just because they have that tradition, they're morally obligated to respect that country. We are inside our opposition here. We don't care for the respect as long as we're able to bring the idea that censoring something isn't necessarily needed, right? A little bit let's talk more about this agenda thing that they wanted to talk about, right? Because at the end of the day, these movies give out agenda to people and whatever. And this is when I talk about my first argument, which I'm definitely engaged in that. What is the best interest of powerhouses, right? Most of the time, it's not just about how much profit they're able to make. Like, as I think it works necessarily, right? You have the most controversial movies like 50 Shades of Grey being so controversial in a lot of countries, but still getting that kind of profit that they wanted, or at least get some kind of revenue out of it, right? We think this is important. We think in the end of the day, there's also an inherent incentive for companies or powerhouses to want to make movies appealing for people to watch, right? For the most of the times, you have people like Star Wars. There's a reason why they wanted their main character to become a female. There's a main reason why their main character is black. Because it's appealing for these communities. Means you allow these people to be inclusive in that media resource to begin with. Most of the time, the problem is, most of the time powerhouses feel that they don't have the ability to make these people inclusive because they think people don't want to watch it, or people feel it's controversial, right? People are scared to take upon it. The more you're able to allow people to have the stance that, you know what, just go with it, even if people censor it, just make it a hard stance, it makes it easier for other powerhouses to make these kinds of things appealing to people. No, thank you, right? Let's look at the example. So why is it important I talk about this, right? The reason why when Beauty and the Beast was supposed to be aired in Malaysia, and Malaysia wanted to censor it, they strictly didn't want to allow Malaysia to censor it. Let's look at this in a logical response of what other countries would feel like. If Malaysia is able to censor Beauty and the Beast, it's more likely that other countries would want to censor it too, right? Which means if your main reason to create Beauty and the Beast, within that sum of value was to create LGBT acceptance, if other communities or other countries are able to then censor your movie, then the whole idea of you wanting that inherent value to people doesn't exist or is no longer relevant to begin with, right? It means you're always okay for you to value your satire. It means you're okay with people valuing the kind of things you want to convey to society. I think it's not fair. I think the amount of comparative of respect is, as much as we're willing, we don't think just because you want to respect a country's culture, you also feel that the respect that other people feel that they need to be represented in a movie, or that they feel they need to be represented in news, just because they are controversial in other communities, is far more important than these communities as well, right? I think they also need that kind of respect, right? We think upon which you're able to always censor these movies, you give the ability for powerhouses to not continually make movies that make people more inclusive in this kind of media outlets. But for that, yes.
You can still make LGBT community inclusive within society, push that agenda without disrespecting the country that you operate in.
Right, most of the time, let's just talk about this, right? Why are we okay with controversial movies, even if it triggers the respect of conservatives, right? Let's just talk about why it's important that these powerhouses want to make things appealing, right? Most of the times, and you see the trend of movies, they don't necessarily have LGBT communities in, or have an LGBT message, right? Or whatever, or like Black African Americans in their movies, and that's particularly important, right? We think that kind of controversy allows people, like, we don't think that target value is for them. If it's not for them, then we don't think they need to show it to that country even so, right? Even at the end of the day, you allow other powerhouses to feel that inherent incentive to want to make these movies also. Therefore, on a scale, we're able to make these LGBT communities or whatever even more inclusive, right? There's more discourse coming on our side upon which controversy can happen, right? Let's talk about 50 Shades of Grey, upon which a lot of countries ban 50 Shades of Grey. But what's important within the value of that movie is more people are comfortable about BDSM, right? We think even though it garnered a lot of controversial, at least the outcome of that value was able to have some inherent incentive for society to be more comfortable to talk about it, right? We think at the end of the day, there is an incentive for powerhouses to want these kinds of outcomes as long as it gives them more viewers and it gives them more traction within that controversial. With that, we're proud to.
Thank you very much, Leader of Opposition. Can I please have the Deputy Prime Minister?
It's funny how side opposition comes up here and tell us that the same people who are not being inclusive to LGBT community are not the target of these media houses. We're only disrespecting them to disrespect them. At the end of the day, they're not the people watching our movies, and therefore these powerhouses have no objective of actually disrespecting in the first place. They want to have a conversation, but they want to disrespect the people that they want to have the conversation with. At the end of the day, these are the very people who will not be watching your the movies you're offering, right? So they thought she told us she came up here to tell us about how the backlash would somehow create more publicity, and this publicity would have more views. Yes, more views from communities that are interested in LGBT in the first place, and more views from people who are going to watch this movie from the very beginning. But when you disrespect the community that you wanted to reach, and you wanted these people to somehow appear in your movies, or these people to actually appreciate the content you're giving and have a discourse with them, then you won't get that simply because they feel disrespected by watching your content, right? So at the end of the day, the bad publicity that they wanted to create some sort of publicity to bring more viewers will actually not include the very people they want to have the discourse with, right? And even if we were to consider that this is a good thing and bad publicity is good publicity, then this is a very short-term view. And on-site government, we would like to have a longer view of how these media houses can subtly actually push down their agendas rather than explicitly disrespecting people by pushing kissing scenes like of gay people in Beauty and the Beast. We're fine with them actually, and as it was viewed in many countries, even countries with religious background, they had Beauty and the Beast, except they trimmed the part where the kissing scene was there. And we're fine with that. However, on side opposition, they're like, no, we want nudity, we want kissing, we want this. You have to come to our side of the house, and that is not what a discourse is. A discourse is having a proper adult conversation between two groups of people. Sit down. So why we feel this is bad is simply because although in the short term there's a lot of financial benefit, down the line there are two possible outcomes of this, right? Either one, that these states will totally ban this media house and they would reject every content coming from this media house, and therefore these states will not be a market for us anymore, right? That's one. Number two, even if they don't ban us, then the viewer rates will fall down in time as they view these people infringing into their sovereignty, and they would not like people disrespecting them time and time again. And we don't see that this is the best way to approach and have a dialogue, right? But even if we were to consider, even if we were to take them at their best case scenario, where in the first place you have many viewers, that this does not mean that we will have a healthy discourse. Yes, sure, we might have a discourse and we might have people talking about it, having the topic on the news, having people conversing about it. Well, we don't think that the start of the conversation being disrespectful would bring a healthy discussion. This would only bring violence and would probably put LGBT community or whatever community that we're fighting for in even bigger trouble than they were in before. Yes, before I continue.
You said you want to help this kind of LGBT community. How can you help them if you censor all their things?
Everything can be done subtly. Like for example, in Beauty and the Beast, when the kissing scene between two gay people was trimmed, people still knew that these couples were gay. People still knew that these gay community exists. People still knew through the movie and other means, creative means of knowing of such community does not have to be explicit, does not have to have a sex scene, does not have to be insulting to these communities. You can still talk about how two people that are in love with each other, and some maybe far down the line, 20 years from now, when community is willing to see a kissing scene between gay people, then only then media houses should have this approach. But to suddenly come in the middle of Saudi Arabia and you show gay people kissing, the next morning you'll see a bombing happening in gay community, right?
Yeah.
And we feel that we're giving too strong of a medicine to a patient that is incapable of taking this medicine, right? And even when we look at when we look at media powerhouses, we want to extend the reach of media houses beyond just for example, in Malaysia, Kuala Lumpur, Selangor. We see like places like Kelantan was not even viewing Beauty and the Beast and have rejected it as a whole. And this is problematic as people will view Kelantan as a role model in the future and would actually take up their stance in the future, simply because this was a controversial issue. Now, Kuala Lumpur and the states that were okay with it continued and proceeded, and they trimmed it, right? Other states fully rejected this thing, and we saw very little turnout from that, which are the target. So if Kelantan and states that are very religious rejected it, and they were our target, then what have we really achieved, right? Furthermore, we feel that these, on my second point, we feel that these states better know how to solve issues of their society. So we believe that these states know when exactly is the right time and how to actually speak to these communities. Especially like, for example, if we don't want to reach to a state where countries like Turkey now is going censoring literally everything Western, simply because the West was not capable of actually speaking to them in their language, in a language of mutual respect. So we have Turkey censoring things like that, right? And then we don't want to go even further into another extreme, like North Korea that rejects literally everything, and they become a country that is not our market at all, and we're incapable of sending any source of information there, simply because initially we did disrespected their sovereignty, and we were not able to speak in a language that they were willing to accept, right? And on-site government, we truly believe that there is no sense of universal. Therefore, each country and each state is entitled to their own type of morality and their own type of morality form. That thing, like.
Thank you very much, Deputy Prime Minister. May we please have the Deputy Leader of Opposition.
Government has a problem, right? They said that they wanted to increase viewerships and whatnot. But the problem with this controversial movies is that they send important messages, right? Meaning that LGBT people deserve to be respected as human, right? Or maybe BDSM is something not taboo, right? And it's right for you to do so, right? On your side of the house, if you don't want those values to be shown to the people, you do not even show those movies to begin with, right? Why? Because if you want organic change to happen in your country, then why is it if you know that it's going to harm your country even further, why do you want to show it, right? But so that the state can oversee these type of values that happen. And if you think your community is unable to accept all of this, but so you don't show them at all, right? Why do you have to cut a very important scene which appeals to people, and now you don't want to example, right? So we can two, right? To further elaborate the value of messaging, how appealing to people and how to make people inclusive, and why powerhouses deserve to intervene and say that you should start respecting your people, and these are things that we think that you should tell the people as well, right? So let's BPM wanted to argue that we should ban every content and whatnot, right? So we tell you, you only further people on the ground, right? You only further LGBT people in these type of communities where they're conservative to begin with, right? More often they cannot find some form of relativeness because they know that in a conservative society, more often people shame them and people think that you are some form of problem and you don't deserve to go to heaven or whatnot, right? At least when these type of movies come out, at least people who watch this, at least people watch movies will understand, right? In comparison on your side, that's why we want to say, right? If we as powerhouses, Disney, Pixar, and whatnot, if we think that you don't want to respect LGBT people on your movement, you're not going to respect your country, right? Because that's problematic. We think that waiting for your organic change can never happen, right? Your organic change can wait for 100 years, but still people on the ground will still suffer because of that, right? LGBT people will still suffer. If black people, the minority in your community, will continue to still suffer because more of the time, your organic change can never happen, right? Even if they said that viewer rate will increase and whatnot, we say it's fine for us to increase your sovereignty because more often they don't want to understand that why it's important to be inclusive and why it's right to whatnot, right? I think a very extreme case coming from their side saying that, oh, now you show LGBT and the beast and there was some from gay scene, more often than people will start bombing, right? Okay, fine, that's very extreme, but more likely people will just shame those values, right? But at least on our side, if we don't put at all, at least Saudi Arabia people could even talk why they don't want to show this movie, right? What is the powerhouse trying to send those messages, right? In comparison on your side, when they censor, it's just show a normal movie and can never show the message they want to appeal to people, right? Yeah, sure.
How are you any different from the very people that disrespect the LGBT community when you disrespect the very people that you're doing the same thing to them? You know, what discourse are you looking for?
Look, the problem is on your side, you never wanted to credit LGBT people to begin with, right? On your side, you said that LGBT people, when you censor this scene, meaning that LGBT people can never be inclusive, right? Whatever whatever gay scenes that comes out in the movie, you tell people that it's wrong for you to do so, right? You never want to make people to be inclusive on your side, right? In comparison, in our side, at least we don't show the movie, we'll have better discourse as to why is it, as to why these people don't want to show those movies and whatnot, right? So let's talk about about why we powerhouses do not need to bow down, right? That's what things POI was very important, right? Because the powerhouses do not need to bow down to your values, right? Because you're sick of your people not trying to come and uphold and not trying to come and be better, right? When no thank you, right? No thank you. When this is what happened, right? So when you don't when you don't even respect your people down there, what is the incentive for powerhouse to actually respect your country and to actually respect your culture values? Like the moment you oppress certain people in your country and you don't want those movies to play, this is why powerhouse decided that, you know what, if you don't want to respect your people, we don't want to respect your culture values, we also would like to take over, right? This is powerhouses will take over, right? Why is it that it's okay for them to do so, right? Because more often you have to realize that powerhouses put a lot of effort, right? A lot of hard work into making sure producing the movies, right? Meaning more often they search movies to appeal people, right? Because we all concede on both sides of the house and we want to achieve the most amount of profit, right? Meaning appealing to people can make a profit. If being inclusive to people can actually appeal those countries to your ship, that is something that will actually benefit. No, thank you, right? This will actually right. So the hard work of research, the hard work of making the movie to make sure that the crime be inclusive and popular, you discredit them, right? We need to tell them that whatever hard work you put in the movie, we don't want you to recognize. We feel that it's not good and compatible in our countries, right? This is a hard work that we want to say. The moment when you don't allow this type of hard work, more often times you disinvite powerhouses to actually try to convey those messages. You disinvite powerhouses to actually help those countries in telling that you actually should be respected as a human and you deserve to be respected, right?
Yeah. Why do you assume that the state is against the media powerhouses? We clearly told you that maybe the state does not believe this is the right time to actually put this content out there. Please engage.
Okay, sure. Then when is the right time? The right time is in 100 years? No, we are sick of you guys waiting for organic change and people on the ground being constantly hurt, right? We tell you that it's about time that we should push something to happen, right? If on your side you want to push for organic change, that can never happen in 100 years. That can never happen in 100 years because people will still indoctrinated with cultural values and think that you don't deserve to be human, right? In comparison, in our side, at least even we don't show this movie, even when we don't show the movie, most of people will engage in those discussions and tell you that those cultural values are important. In comparison on your side, they can never even be progressive to begin with, right? So let's talk about the messages, right? So shame those type of countries, right? Because we want to tell society there are some part of spectrum of people that you should respect also. There are liberal people in the country, right? The problem is that liberal people in your conservative space can never come out because conservative values are openly oppressed to them, and then your liberal values doesn't matter, even if how hard you come and discourse, right? This is where media powerhouse can take a better. Media powerhouse are the best people to actually come and view those rights. And we tell you that if you want to start, this is when media powerhouses take out those by not showing, by not respecting and taking out, not showing the movie. More of the times, no side of the house will also say that, yeah, this is the reason why if you don't want to listen to us, this is why we are facing. We tell you that, yeah, you should stop being conservative and see the certain spectrum of people also exist from outside of the house, right? This is when you appeal to more people as well, right? Powerhouses, this is why I say also powerhouses wanted more money and to be more inclusive to people as to appealing. Like when you appeal to certain individuals, more times they make profit, right? This is when this speech talk about controversial means that controversial movies get more money, right? More profit, right? Controversial movies able to get people to watch the movie and to get them to understand the underlying message that the hard work these people do. We tell you that we're okay, we're not showing as long as people who understand what the messages we're trying to send. For all those reasons, I'm very proud to oppose.
Yeah.
Thank you very much, Deputy Leader of Opposition. Now, to summarize the substantive portion of government speech, I'd like to invite the government whip. Okay.
Mr. Speaker, the side opposition is calling for an organic change, but they want it to happen right here and right now, which doesn't make sense. If we're going to talk about an organic change, we want people to change from the inside. We want the discourse to start from the inside, and that's what we are calling for. And allowing some of the sensitivities of the movies or in TV shows to happen in a society that doesn't agree with it is forcing ideas and down their throats, and which gonna cause into retaliations against those ideas for whatever reason. And I'm gonna mention them in my speeches. But let me talk to you about the main clashes that happened throughout these debates. Discussion about the backlash. The opposition, they said they don't mind the backlash. So even if you force people to see something that they don't want to see, the side opposition said they don't mind it because in a way it might start the discourse. And they also give the example of the 50 Shades of Grey. 50 Shades of Grey was banned in Malaysia, but in the same time it started the discourse. So in our model, even if it's banned totally, we are not calling for banning, just respect some of the morality standards, but at the same time, it doesn't stop the discourse. On the other hand, Mr. Speakers, the retaliations from the backlash is bad on multiple levels. The first one is it portrayed the issue in a bad way that might not be suitable for the society, because you are bringing it from Western culture, which is gonna go to my second level of analysis, that people are gonna see this idea coming from a Western world or from a different culture than their culture. Therefore, whoever gonna start preaching it, it's gonna be like someone who's preaching Westernizations and is gonna it's gonna retaliate just because it's not from our culture. Just because it's coming from the West, therefore it has to be banned. So it won't be about either toleration of LGBT or not. It's gonna be either us versus them, which is gonna totally stop the discourse and gonna make it even harder to start the discourse rather than the organic change that they were talking about. And Mr. Speaker, even in the West that they brag about, and they brag about the human rights or whatever LGBT tolerance, their process of change took a lot of years, took multiple discussions, multiple public conferences, public seminars, and all this stuff. So those countries, they want the countries that they are not there at the same time, which cannot happen. The discourse, Mr. Speakers, can still happen throughout the social media, throughout internet, not from the powerhouses that can risk of being banned and from even entering to that country, and I'm going to talk about it in a moment. And also the side opposition were mentioning that they want to try it here and now, even we don't want to wait for 100 years or what. But what we answer is like, even if after 100 years, so what? At least we're gonna have a change that's gonna last forever. If the discussion is gonna take multiple years, it's fine. Rather than having it right here and now and invoking a conflict or invoking a societal, I'm not gonna say societal war, but societal. Mr. Speaker, we don't want that to happen. We want the powerhouse, the media powerhouse, to respect, sit down, to respect the morality of the other country. Because one more thing we should bear in mind, that morality are not universal, Mr. Speakers. If in a country, whatever standards of morality is correct in that country, doesn't mean it's the same standard of morality in the other countries. They cannot enforce that. And we have seen it clearly, Mr. Speaker, happening lately with the Chinese movies, with the Chinese cinemas. The Hollywood production, the Hollywood movie, they found out that portraying Chinese or Asian people as villains or as bad people or as just a nerd wasn't working for them in China to have their movies be seen there because of profit reasons. Sit down. So now all the new movies, they are fighting to have some Easter eggs for Chinese people. They are trying to find Chinese heroes so they can be portrayed in Chinese movie. And the biggest market is not US, is China, and they have very limited amount of movies to accept per year. So the Hollywood movies, they are fighting to concede to the culture, which is standard morality of China for all their own benefits, for their own good. And it's also good for the LGBT community or the minority, because now they are being accepted into the market. Therefore, they can show some of the aspects of gayness or whatever LGBT or minority or respect to the other races and all this stuff without touching, without being vulgar about it, without showing it I'll just give you a small example, Mr. Speaker. Just recently with the last movie of the X-Men, there was like a scene with showing the boobs in it. And if you saw the movie here in Malaysia, the scene was trimmed out. It doesn't change not anything from the movie itself, from the story itself, but just because in Malaysia, it's not out, it's not okay for you to see the woman's breast, or it's not okay for you to sit with your family watching the movie and then a breast scene come out. So it was trimmed out of respect. It doesn't change anything. The Beauty and the Beast was the same thing. People know this guy is gay, but in the movie you don't see any aspect of it. It's just out of respect. But you know this guy, how is his character, how is his ethics, and also before 6 minutes. Yeah.
States have the ability to choose to ban these movies if they're needed to censor it. How is it within your power that there's still going to be a conflict of interest in society?
In our model, we are giving them the chance to be part of the society, part of our culture, so we and the Western world or all the other worlds, we have a social, we have a shared popular culture that we can discuss about, and we can have a discourse regarding whatever LGBT or whatever else. But if you're gonna totally ban it, and which I'm not calling for, actually we never said that we are banning any movies or any of those powerhouse media. We are asking for them to respect the standards of morality of the country. So for their own profit good, or their own economical benefits, so they can stay in the country as a producer, and their movies can be portrayed in the cinemas. And on the other hand, for the benefits of the society itself, so they can take those morals and those standards in the right way, not in the non-organic way by injecting it into the society. And for all those reasons, Mr. Speaker, we strongly propose. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Government Whip. To end this extended portion of this debate, I invite the Opposition Whip.
Here.
Prime Minister's speech, we see no tangible harm coming from a side government to begin with. They all you then value this debate today, right? So what is our burden coming from side opposition? I think it's simple. If we're able to prove, even without censorship, we can still get viewership, we can still make movies appealing, we can still make vulnerable communities feel inclusive in media, and provide an incentive for other powerhouses to feel empowered to represent these communities, then we feel we win the debate, right? In the most vulnerable way, we're able to protect and we're able to allow powerhouses to get this kind of recognition, right? But let's look on the outside, right? We think at the end of the day, the debate relies on the states have a choice. Either you want to show or you want to ban, right? Upon which a state feels that they want to censor some part of controversial content in the media, then they should just ban the movie or media to begin with in a whole. Which you don't show everything at all, right? I think if states of conservative communities can oversee and make the moral calculus that they portray of how harmful the outcomes are, then it's best that they just ban, right? Because we think at the end of the day, the kind of communities that they're talking about that creates backlash, whatever, is not the target market that these powerhouses want to preach at the end of the day, right? We don't think this is how the debate should have went, right? But let's look at a few principles, right? Number one, should powerhouses make controversial content to begin with, right? We think it's fair for us to contend the fact that we're okay with the controversial content, right? Even if to these, even like for example Malaysia, we're still okay with that, with powerhouses showing that controversial content in Malaysia, as long as it gives ability for the powerhouses to make more movies that favor their vulnerable viewers, right? Because we told you that when it comes to viewers, these powerhouses still have viewers that are LGBTs and want to be inclusive in that media outlet. You still have people who, females, for example, in most vulnerable states, want to be inclusive, right? And censoring parts of which represent them does not empower them even more, right? We think upon which you rely on that censorship, you then don't represent them, right? We think it's important to have that hard stance because you feel as long as you don't censor them, you create this narrative that you're able to represent these people because you know how vulnerable they are and you want to make them more inclusive. We told you at a principle level, powerhouses to benefit because it gives more credit upon you which recognizing these individuals and making a hard stance for them as a form of representation, right? I think these messages that they convey in their media creates more discourse that's more likely to be productive in our side of the house, right? But let's look on their side. When they talked about that where there's no even tangible harm of how a controversial content can then happen severely in society, right? Because we gave you the example, even when Malaysia had the incentive to censor Beauty and the Beast, and upon which it wasn't censored, there wasn't any form of tangible harm that was too extreme to what they portray within society. So we don't think there's any relevant tangible harm that happens within that controversial content, right? Number two, should powerhouses be given the moral obligation to respect these countries to begin with, right? We told you from the get-go, we don't care about respecting these countries, right? As long as these media outlets feel the need to convey the messages that they have, right? We think on a comparative, the kind of respect we're more willing to take is the respect of the most vulnerable communities that view these powerhouses, right? We think when you are powerhouses, it's more likely for you to respect the people who view your media, who view your content, and these are the most vulnerable people that are in it, needs to feel inclusive. We don't think it's your moral obligation to then respect countries who don't even respect your content to begin with, and we think it's a contradiction for powerhouses to begin with if it goes that way, right? Let's look at the outcome. What happens inside opposition, right? Then you have powerhouses who make movies or content more inclusive to society, right? We think at the end of the day, when you're able to make them more inclusive, you allow other incentives for powerhouses to make these things inclusive, right? Upon which Star Wars was able to create a female lead character, you're able to incentivize other power outlets to then do the same thing, which garners more which makes viewers feel more inclusive in your production, right? In comparison to their outcome, at the end of the day, you have people who just feel as if their content is never necessarily content, and that they're always able to trade off the most vulnerable impact that they have in their media just for the sake of respect of this basic country. Proud to oppose.
Thank you very much, reply speaker. I'd like to invite the government reply speaker to end the debate. Yeah.
After that grueling debate, here I am to shed some light on things that we refuse to engage in, or maybe the word of mouth, things that has been put into the government's mouth that I don't think we've ever said at all. So first things, refusal to engage is that we did not put such a hard stance on this. We did not say we're going to ban all, and also we did not say that we think that LGBT people are not humans. These are things that we did not think I mentioned earlier in the debate that these companies are all for profit, so we're not quite sure, we're not quite sure what their intentions are. But from side opposition, we've heard that they have no incentives to respect this country. They don't want them. We're just asking for respect, but they think that we're asking them to bow down. So, and they say that if you want to censor them, then why show? No need show. So if we're not going to show these movies to these people, we're just not going to bother with bringing good values from other countries into these countries. And this is the things that side opposition is willing to undertake on their side. Is that if you want to accept 100% of us, which is not true, because I think BBC doesn't do that, CNN doesn't do that. We have those channels in a lot of countries that even have strict religious or specific standards of morality even. So another thing that was mentioned as well, she mentioned that the media backlash and then bad publicity, you're going to make it more appealing. We've already counted this inside our second argument that the making it appealing and then only these people watch it and then they do not care that these people who need to be influenced by these values that they don't want to promote, they don't care. It's okay. We rather lose this profit from this country because they don't want to accept us, but they want to make money. They wanted more viewership, and this point of clashes it should be highlighted in this debate. They also refuse to engage in us in how much we talk about how we don't want we concede that there is discrimination, that the world is progressing towards change, that we are looking towards development. This is something both government and opposition side can agree on, but they refuse to admit that we do agree on this, but the government sees it as a more subtle way. There is a better way, because we do understand that people, they easily to change. She said, when are we going to get change? 100 years? Side opposition doesn't want to wait for change for 100 years. May I remind the group that about women only got voting rights less than 100 years ago, and now we still have voting rights. So this kind of changes are working. This kind of changes that we see, that we fight for, that women in the centuries have fought for, at the end of it, the end goal meets what we want. So what the government sees here is sustainable solutions, not just solutions that are short-term, as what the side opposition has elaborated to us. How, if you don't want us, then we don't want to accept you. Where does this universal inclusivity come? They want to push their agenda all the way until we separate the people who don't agree and people who agree. And that's not how we want the world to see. We realize that we want to build tolerance. And through this context, we can build tolerance. Look, LGBT people are in the world. And they're not exactly out of the world. You shouldn't exile them. They're in our offices, they're in our environments. Normalize it. So we're trying to normalize it, but there is an extension to that normalizing that has to fit the specific standards of morality, which is what the government stands for today. We did not stand for banning all content. We did not stand for, because we don't understand these people, because we don't like them, because we do not think of them as human. We did not put those words in our mouth. We did not mention them in our speech. We do not think that way about these people. We believe in change. We want the same change the opposition does. We want positive discourse, just like the opposition. And today they brought to us and mentioned to us how they want to, they on their side, how it works better because there will be more discourse, there will be more positive discourse. When on our side, we think that there will be discourse on both sides. However, healthier and more elaborate and more inclusive discourse on our side could be achieved better rather than on their side when they just don't want to show, they have a hard stance. If you don't want it, then we don't want you. And on our side government, we see a flaw in this logic, on how inclusivity works in this logic. And this is why the government proudly proposes.
Thank you very much to all speakers. You may cross floors, shake hands, wait outside. I'll call you in a bit.